This is a shoe. Now, let's say you go to the same shoe store all the time to get used shoes since they're cheaper, and for your entire life, those shoes have come with laces, free of charge. Yeah, the shoes might be a little dirty, creased, smelly, the insole might be a little fucked up, but it's cheaper than buying it new. Now, let's say one day you go and buy a shoe used. However, the cashier does not give you the laces. Now, you're an asshole to minimum wage employees, so you scream, "Where's the laces, you dipshit? Are you new or what?" And as it turns out, he's actually the new shift lead, and he explains to you that you have to buy the laces directly from EA now because they hate you. And that's when it hits you. You're not buying used shoes. It's 2013, you're at GameStop, and you're trying to buy a used copy of Battlefield 3, and it doesn't come with the fucking online multiplayer, because why not? The early 2010s was probably the worst time to be a gamer. Not because the games were actually bad, but it's just, man, every company just fucking hated you. Xbox had everything wrong with the Xbox One. It felt less like it was marketed towards gamers and more like it was marketed towards people who would have just bought a fucking Roku for everything the One did. Nintendo absolutely bankrolled with the Wii U, which grew to eventually be the negative first best-selling console ever with 3 gazillion units sold. It's just that good. And Sony was actually doing alright. One facet of early 2010s gaming that really intrigues me, just wondering how the hell it happened at all, was the ban on used video games. No, they weren't actually banned. It wasn't like Obama came up to the podium and said, "Let me be clear, no more used games." No, it was just publishers trying to introduce bullshit tactics to curb the amount of used games sold. Let me paint a picture for you. The way new games work is that they get the games from the publisher, but then they have to buy those copies. When they actually sell them, the retailers aren't making much of a profit, money goes to the publishers, but not much goes to the store. Stores like GameStop or small mom and pop shops kind of rely on used games because that's the only way they're making much of a profit, because they buy that game directly from you. It's not like they're buying my used copy of Watch Dogs for the Wii U directly from Activision. That's fucking ridiculous. I bought this shit in like February 2024. No, they bought it from some poor sap who was able to sell Watch Dogs for the Wii U in 2024 at GameStop for like $1, and then they sold it to me for $8. That's a $7 profit. But game publishers, my friend, being the slimy, greedy pieces of shit that they are, don't like that profit that they're not getting. So, a few had tricks up their sleeve to ensure that they're squeezing every last dollar out of you. Also, me, being the slimy, greedy piece of shit that I am, also have a trick up my sleeve. Selling out. We'll be back after these messages.
We await your return, warrior.
This episode of StaticSquidd was brought to you by Fabletop Productions. And you, I guess, if you're really there. Do you need a new tabletop RPG with exciting action-packed fun?
Yeah?
Well, introducing Agents of Fate, a new tabletop RPG by Fabletop Productions. Agents of Fate requires you, the player, to use your imaginations in an improv action comedy scenario. The players get a set of tasks to complete, but they often overlap with other people at the table. It's competitive, I'd say. However, the coolest part is the time-bending flashback system, allowing players to rewrite the story as the game's being played. For more info, visit the project's Kickstarter page in the description below. The project may be backed, but there's still 12 days before the campaign ends, so back. If you want a copy for yourself, if you want to contribute to the stretch goals like a new campaign or an art book, or if you just have money burning in your pocket, head on over and give them those dimes. Thank you to Fabletop Productions for sponsoring this episode of StaticSquidd. The funniest method of cockblocking to me was definitely what Ubisoft did in this era. It wasn't too fundamentally different from everything else, it's just that all of their games released during this era don't have any online component whatsoever, so yeah, go ahead, use this code. I dare you. I triple dog dare you. What's it gonna do? Sure, back then it was a little painful, but now it doesn't even matter, because even if you somehow do find a brand new copy of Far Cry 3, there's no point in using the online pass anyway. This ban was really just funny in hindsight, because yeah, online servers are gonna shut down eventually.
Duh.
Locking the most time-sensitive aspect of a game behind a paywall just kind of means you lose money. But don't actually fret if you paid to unlock Battlefield 3's multiplayer back in the day. I mean, do, because EA just decided to make all online passes free because even they can realize this shit is just stupid. Interestingly, the one publisher I associate with being greedy and money-hungry, Activision, absolutely detested this practice. As much as I think that he's the reincarnation of the devil, Hitler, and Genghis Khan, more so Genghis than anything else, Bobby Kotick, the then CEO of Activision, actually said that used games are not detrimental to the industry and that developers should focus on giving players more content. Now, COD's DLCs are incredibly expensive, but hey, doesn't excuse anything else that he did. I think one thing that was really funny was when Microsoft decided to ban used games, not as in their published games coming with online passes, but the inability to play used games altogether on the Xbox One. If that actually went through, my Xbox One collection would have started looking like this. Just like that. Sony decided to laugh at Microsoft and like the next day announced that everything the Xbox One was doing wrong, Sony wouldn't do. Microsoft never ended up actually doing any of that either, but just the thought that they would absolutely tanked their reputation. I could yap all day about how disastrous of a reveal the Xbox One had, but we're just discussing used games right now. So yeah, the original plan for the Xbox One was to ban used games. Sony did clap back by making a informational video that was more comedy skit than informational.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
But they weren't wrong. You could play used games on the PS4, and that was the plan the entire time. Sony isn't entirely innocent here, though. The online pass system probably started with them. A lot of games that did this were from 2012 to 2013. Ratchet & Clank All for One did this and was from 2011. This isn't definitive proof that this happened, and there's not really a single origin point for this online pass system I can dig up, but take that for what it's worth. Nowadays, companies just don't care much about buying used games. 2012, this was just how the cookie crumbled for some gamers. 2024, buying used games is a mental disorder. I do have autism, further illustrating my point. Now, most people don't buy games physically. I like buying games physically. I think it's an experience that can't match buying a game digitally, but for many consumers, developers, and publishers, the Holy Trinity, digital's just the way to go. I'm kinda sad physical games are being phased out in some capacity, but developers don't have to worry about optical media storage limits, though they should because most file sizes on modern day games are fucking ridiculous. Publishers get more money from sales, and the consumer doesn't have to leave the house to get vitamin D, instead just buying the game from the console itself. I've certainly warmed up to getting a few digital titles lately. I bought Pikmin 1+2 on the eShop despite a physical version releasing a few months later. I look at my old self who was so against digital games like a year ago, and I'm proud of the man I am today. But used games aren't actively being taken action against, and in fact, sometimes they're actually encouraged. If you have an Xbox One or a Series X, you can play select OG Xbox and 360 titles on the newer hardware. Plus, some games are only available through disc, so can't get those digitally. Nintendo sure as hell is promoting used games by still selling Splatoon 2 for like $60, even though Splatoon 3 has been out for like 2 years. But that's just a weird facet of gaming history. I don't think used games will ever go away. There'll always be a market for this kind of stuff, and it wasn't like the things that were locked behind a pass were essential to playing the game. I just wanted to take a look back to an era where corporations are spending as much time as possible trying to inconvenience people. I'm always interested in hearing other people's opinions though, so if you think they should have banned used games, drop a comment.
I'll show this guy.
Also drop a comment if you love killing puppies, if you love murdering babies, if you love killing birds, if you love stomping out
I don't
dogs,
do any of that.
if you like lighting orphanages on fire,
I don't
if
do
you're
that.
Hitler 2,
I
if
don't
you're
do any of
Stalin
that.
3. There's not even a second one, man. You're just that bad.